Hi everybody, today I wanted to go over Unique Fabrics 2 in Daz Studio. Before we get started, I wanted to mention that this is going to be a multi-part video series. So if you're somebody that's more familiar with Daz Studio, or you're feeling very comfortable and maybe you just need a little bit of tips and tricks here or there, or just want to see kind of the various ways that I use the pack, you can kind of skip around and just watch the things that you would like to see or that you might not know. And for those that may be newer to Daz Studio, I went ahead and I'm trying to cover as much as I can of kind of the basics and the UI and stuff like that, just in case maybe you're not as comfortable, so that you can get just as much enjoyment out of the pack as somebody who has more experience. So if you are somebody that is experienced, please feel free to kind of go through the titles and the headings and figure out, which videos may be best for you. I also will include a summary as well as timestamps for all the videos. So not only can you jump to the videos that interest you, but you can actually just jump straight to the topics within those videos that may interest you. So without further ado, let's get started here. So first, just a brief overview. I usually like to start my tutorials by going over what you will be seeing product-wise in the tutorial. So what I used in my scenes, because people ask a lot. So I like to make sure that it's easy to know and easy to find, just in case anybody sees something that they like and they want to check it out in the store. So I used Evelyn and Lynn HD for Genesis 8 female. In these tutorials, I used Leonard HD for Genesis 8.1 male and Torment 8.1. I used Dwarf HD for Genesis 8 male. A lot of the poses, if not all of the poses, were done by the lovely and talented Eliandra. I really love her poses. They're often very kind of soft and, I don't know, like elegant. So if interested, please be sure to check out her store. She's got some great stuff in there. I also used Poppy Hair for Genesis 3 and 8 females, and then the backlight shaders for eye ray on that hair. Fast production lights for eye ray. I also used D-Force Opera outfit for Genesis 8 female and D-Force Flower Power outfit for Genesis 8 female. D-Force Light Magic outfit for Genesis 8 female, although I believe I just used like the shorts and the top maybe. And then I also used D-Force Divine Drapes for Genesis 8 females. D-Force Night Stalker outfit for Genesis 8 females. D-Force Plague Doctor clothing, props, and poses for Genesis 8 male. Poseidon outfit for Genesis 8 males. And last but not least, if you have not checked out the first Unique Fabrics, or rather the original, and you get this pack and you really like it, I highly suggest checking out the first pack, since this pack and that pack are made to work together and kind of commingle with each other. So each pack actually extends the other pack. So if you don't have that, please check that out. And now let's go ahead and we'll get into the next thing here, which is, okay, you bought the pack, you have it installed, where can you find things? So the first thing I wanted to go over is where to find it within the texture folder. And the reason I'm doing that is because this is a merchant resource, and also because as you go through the tutorials, you will find more and more ways that you can use the maps that aren't ways that I actually set up for within Daz Studio. So basically, you're going to be able to do more than even what I did with the set at the end of this. So I wanted you to be able to find them if you would like to play, because pretty much it's imagination is the limit here. But you want to go to your Daz 3D library and go to Runtime, Textures, Art Collab, and then Unique Fabrics PT2. Within that folder, you are going to find 18 individual folders. Those 18 folders correspond to the name of the patterns within the set. Now, they're kind of generic, so it's like beaded 01 through 09, and then in pattern 01 through 09, because I didn't have any brilliant names for these. Just kind of name them that way. If you go into a folder for one of the patterns, so like if we go into beaded 01, you are going to see a bunch of maps in there, and then you are also going to see a additional folder in every folder. So if I go into 02, you're going to see an additional folder in here. That folder contains the plating for that specific pattern. Now, as far as the files within these folders, I wanted to explain my naming convention so that you know which files do what things. So if you see a file that says like beaded 01 underscore BLK, BLU, burgundy, gold, green, gray, PRPL, red. I usually use PRPL for purple, BLK for black, BLU for blue. I don't know why, because blue is such a short word, and then I spell out burgundy. Don't ask. But anyways, those are my main presets for this specific pattern. So each pattern has 8 presets. So if you look, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So those ones are going to be the main texture or the base texture. You will also see a file that says underscore AO. That would be your ambient occlusion pass for that specific pattern. Underscore H is going to be a height map. Underscore M would be the metallicity map. Underscore N would be the normal map. Underscore R is going to be the roughness map. Then MSK 1, 2, 3, 4, there can be a bunch of them. It depends on the pattern. But anything with MSK and a number is going to be the masks for that pattern. And then anything with TR and then a number is going to be the trans maps for that pattern. And if you hear chiming in the background, please forgive it. That is our clock. And then the naming convention is exactly the same within the beaded metal folder as well. So if I change my view here so you can actually see, too big. Okay. If I go in here, you're going to see the same. You'll see like beaded 01 and then a name metal. That's going to be your main base texture. AO is going to be the ambient occlusion pass. H is going to be the height. M is going to be the metallicity. N is going to be the normal. And R is going to be the roughness. And that naming convention is carried throughout all of these folders. So if you go into any of them, it's going to be the same. I also wanted to point out that in this folder, there is a pattern key right here. So if we open that up here, I wanted to make it easy for people to be able to see what the different patterns look like. So if for some reason you weren't unsure, like, you know, which pattern you're using or which one you have open, if you want, you can take this and kind of put it somewhere handy or possibly print it out. And then you'll be able to have this to use to refer back to just in case you need it. I just thought it would be kind of a handy visual guide for everybody. So that is that. I just wanted to point out that it's there. It's kind of just hiding in the folder here. Now let's move on to Daz Studio. So we have now found where it is within the folder structure as far as the textures, which was the main part you needed to be able to find. Now how to find it within Daz Studio. If you go to your Daz 3D library and then open that up and go way down the list, it will be under shader presets and then Art Collab. And then Unique Fabrics 2. If you own Unique Fabrics 1, you'll see that they're kind of together in here. as I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, the two sets were made to be used together. So if you're somebody that does own part one, you can use the colors, some of the presets, the scaling, the alternative normals from the first pack. You can use all that stuff with the second pack, and all of the colors and presets and adjustment type mats and stuff like that. All of the things in the second set can also be mixed and matched with the first set. So if you have the first set, please know that the two, you can go back and forth between these folders. As a matter of fact, you could kind of combine them if you wanted to. But so I just wanted to kind of bring that up. So if you have the two, like, you could use the alternative normals that are in the first set that are not in the second set with the colors and stuff from the second set. You could use all the colors and stuff from the second set, and there are a lot with the first set, and so on and so forth. Now let's get into what is in this folder. So when you first click, what you're going to see is all of the presets here for all of the different patterns. So as I said, there's 8 for each one. So for beaded 01, these are the 8 right here. For beaded 02, these are the 8. I just kind of extended this to be out by 4 so that way you could see it easier, and so on and so forth. So these are going to be just your kind of double click, put on an outfit type presets. Then there's going to be a utilities folder. Within that utilities folder, there is instructions right here that if you hover over, it will pop up bigger and you'll be able to see what all is going on in here. And then there are 4 different clearing mats. Those clearing mats are used to clear the existing textures off of the outfits that you want to use this on, and they're made to clear those textures off in various ways. So some of them, like this one, will clear everything off. So it will clear everything off of the surface that you select, and then it's going to set the tiling to 4, which is where I suggest starting for most things to see how big or small you want it. So that would be this mat. Then there are 3 clear partial mats that only clear certain parts of the existing textures that are on the clothing. So as we get further into the tutorials, I'll go more into that, but just know that they're in this main utilities folder here. Within that folder, now you're going to find a bunch more folders. There is a GeoShell folder, which has instructions across the top here and goes over a couple things. And then there is GeoShells for 8.1 female, 8.1 male, 8 female, and 8 male, just because they had a little bit different structure and I wanted to make sure that they all loaded right. And then there's also some opacity settings here too, so that you can adjust those. And then in the next folder, you will find the plating, which is going to be basically like armor plating. It could be used on other things. So it could be used on, say, like swords or axes or any kind of metal surfaces that you want, not just, not only armor, but it can be used in different ways. But all of the included plating is in the plating folder. Then the next folder is going to be scaling. This is what you're going to use to kind of tile the shaders so that you can kind of check out different sizes. Then there's a transparency folder, which has the trans maps for all the different patterns. So like this is for the beaded pattern, beaded 01. These ones are for beaded 02. Some have more than others. So like if you look, beaded 02 has actually 9, I think. As we're beaded, 9, as we're beaded 01 only had 4. So it depends on the pattern, how much there is that I could play with it. Then you're going to find another folder that says white recolor bases. These are to basically build your own pattern. So with these, you can make your own colors on the patterns. You can kind of structure things as you would like them. There are some instructions here as well to kind of help. And all of the different patterns have a white recolor base. Within that folder, you are going to find 3 more folders. There's a lot of folders. The folders have folders. In that folder, you're going to find white base colors, white base pattern masks 01, and white base pattern masks 02. If we open up the white base colors, and there's a little instruction thing here, and if you open that up, everything is broken down into color groups. So if you go into like reds, it's going to be all reds. If you go into orange, same thing. Now, what I want to point out is that I tried to get basically the entire color wheel and most of the spectrum. So if you have this open in 4s like I do, then the most saturated version of the color is going to be this very first one. If you go from left to right in a group of 4 this way, then it gets darker and darker, but it's still this shade of red. The luminosity is just changing, so it's getting darker. If you go downward, if you have this open by 4 like this, if you go down this way, then that is this color desaturated, and I desaturated by, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 levels downward. Technically, there's 5 saturations for each, and that goes for all of these. So if I go down this way, this is the desaturated versions of this color. So if something is like, well, I like this color, but it's not quite dark enough, you want to go to the right of it. If you think it's like too stark or too saturated, too bright, then you want to go down this way with it. Hopefully that will kind of help. Like when you're playing with the colors, I decided to do it that way so I could kind of fine tune easier for myself. And because I'm a little bit crazy, especially when you see how many of these I did. And once you get all the way down here, you get like your grays, which that's just kind of one grouping here, just goes from light to dark. And then there's a folder that is in betweens. What that folder is colors that aren't exactly red, but aren't exactly orange, or aren't exactly yellow, but aren't exactly green. So think like your aquas, your teals, like your kind of orangey yellows, stuff like that. I found that I spent a lot of time in this in-between folder because it seems to me that all the colors I like happen to just be in between 2 colors. But I wanted you to know what this folder meant. And then at the very bottom in each group here, which we'll open these other ones in a second, there will also be utilities that applies basically to that folder, but some of them can be used like amongst all of these. So like these don't just apply to this or stuff like that, but they mostly apply to the base color stuff. So the utilities that mostly apply to that specific heading, like white base colors, those utilities are under that heading. So if we go into white base pattern masks 01, here you're going to find a bunch of masks. Now there is a metallicity off for this specific mask here in the front. That is because if you have metallicity on, this adds, if I go into surfaces, well, I won't be able to because there's nothing loaded in here. But basically pattern masks 01 use the diffuse overlay. And if you have metallicity turned up, sometimes it can interfere with it being visible. There are some directions here to kind of help and some ideas. And then each pattern has their own set. So like Beaded 03 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 masks as an example. Some have more, some have less, depends again on the pattern. Within this folder, you're going to see all those same color folders. The difference is where these base color folder changes the base diffuse color or the main color of whatever clothing. This is going to change the pattern overlay color. So these ones will change a different kind of area on the patterns. Then you also have the utilities for this in here. And then last but not least, you have pattern masks 02. There's a thing here to turn the metallicity on, and pattern masks 02 will load in the metallicity channel, which I will show all this later. So this is just kind of a rough overview. And if you go down, you're going to see pretty much all the same masks, but they are being applied to a different area of the shader. And same colors, only these ones will change the metallicity color instead of the diffuse overlay or the base color. And then there's some utilities for this one. And that covers what is in the folders and the basics of what is here. In our next video, we are going to go over setting up Daz Studio, kind of briefly, different views and stuff that may be helpful when you're using the set. I will go over different draw styles that will be the most useful, and kind of getting Daz Studio optimized or kind of ready so that you can play around with the set as efficiently as possible. So that will be the next video. And if you're interested in that, then please move on forward to the next section. If not, feel free to skip over it and go to one of the other sections. Thank you for buying the pack, and thank you for watching the videos, and I will see you in the next video.